Hi, my name is Lee. This is my channel, Lee Literally Designs, and today we are going to be making a collage book from my time in Amsterdam and Berlin. I will be showing you the process of how I made the cover, to what junk finds I put inside, and taking you through a little bit about my trip in Amsterdam and Berlin from last year. Spoiler alert, I did not have a great time on this trip, and we'll get into a little bit of the details, a little bit of the gossip of just some stuff that went down during it. And obviously it's been a year, so I don't remember a lot, and honestly I think I blocked a lot of it out of my memory. But anyways, let's dive in.
Okay, so we're first going to start off with measuring where I want the thread to go through for this book. And overall, it needs to have 5 points to go through. And here I'm taking my awl, AWL, to poke through the thicker pages. Sometimes it takes a little bit extra work, and this is a medium-sized awl. There are different sizes for awls. You can get small, large, extra large. Different ones are used for different reasons, but this is the one that I have for now. And as we're taking this and poking through, I'll talk a little bit more about the book itself. I've been putting this off for almost a year. The trip that I went on, I actually got really sick on that trip, and it's been really hard to look back at the memories because I feel like I wasn't able to fully enjoy and immerse myself in Amsterdam and Berlin when I was there. So as you can see, I am using the awl and I'm having to create bigger holes, so I'm kind of moving it around to create that bigger hole for the thread itself. Here I'm taking a needle that I dropped, and then I am threading that needle. Hey, first try. But I am not knotting that needle, because that would just mean that I would need a bigger hole, and therefore if the thread is too small for the hole, then the book is too loose. And what I'm doing now is I'm measuring the thread. So you want to do it 2 times the length of the book to have enough thread. You start in the middle, and I'm doing just a simple binding stitch for this part of the book. And at the end of the thread, you want to make a knot in order for it to stick at the end. And there's that knot. So I started with the book open, and now we're at the back of the book, and we're going to take a brief intermission and then come back to threading the needle. Okay, so we're back with threading this needle through the book, and you'll never guess what I had to do during that brief intermission, but it was look up the WikiHow article of threading the needle through the book. So there you go. So as you can see, there is a system of threading this needle through the book, if you want a better explanation, I would recommend you looking up the WikiHow on how to bind a book, because that was extremely helpful and it has lots of good pictures on it. It wasn't my first time looking up the WikiHow for how to bind a book. Now you can see that I'm tying it off at the end and cutting off the excess, and there we go. We have our little bound pages. Okay, on to the next thing. We are making the cover of the book. Here I'm measuring out exactly how big the book is itself. And then we'll move on to the cutting process after that. Now, what I want to do in this circumstance is actually use some kind of 90-degree angle tool, because I do not have exactly straight lines. But since this is a more collage book and I'm not needing such precise cutting or precise lines in this circumstance, since this book is merely just a memory book for myself, I'll say in this circumstance it's okay to not have the most perfect cut lines. And as you can see, it takes a few times to cut through this board for my book cover. Now I'm just going to use that book cover as a sort of guide for the other side of it, and then after this I'll make there, I cut wrong. It's okay, mistakes happen. Obviously it's easy to fix, but yeah, it can be a bit hard to get it right. I probably need to change the blade on this box cutter, honestly, because it doesn't seem that sharp now that I'm rewatching this. So the cover of the book will be easily masked the jagged edges of the cover will be easily masked with what I'm putting over them. And then now I'm measuring, you can see at the bottom of the screen, I'm measuring how much I want my book or side of the book to be. I think I decided on like 1 inch for this, which ended up being the exact amount of thickness that I needed for this book. I just did my best guess and trusted my intuition when it came to that. But it worked out really well in the end. And there we have our pieces for the book cover. Now I'm cutting up the paper bag that I got while thrifting on one of my last days in Berlin. It was this pop-up thrift store that I went to, and I got a skirt and a shirt there, and I still wear those items today. I really like them, and I like saying that I got them from Berlin. And this bag stayed with me for, again, almost a year until I'm tearing it up, and then this is going to be the cover for my book. I like that it's wrinkled. I like that it has that look. Here I'm using the glue and brushing it out so that there's not much like glue spots on it, but since it's wrinkled, it doesn't matter that much. You can't really see it on the other side, but I'm also putting glue on the edges to make sure that everything is secured. And again, with some drama from the trip, at one point we literally lost a girl in the group. This was a study abroad trip, and there was a big group of us, and the teachers that also organized the trip and went on it constantly wanted to stay in this big group, and it was just very like I was embarrassed to stay with the group because like we were just a big group and it made more sense to split up. And anyways, even though we wanted to stay with this big group, or they wanted the big group to stay together, we did get to split up a little bit. But once there was a girl who literally was lost for a small portion of one of the days of our trip, and we couldn't help but, be like, oh my god, I can't believe this girl is lost, like she's a literal adult. I don't know, they were treating us a lot like kids on this trip when all of us were adults, so that was a bit frustrating. But we got to see a lot of cool sights despite everything, and despite me getting sick on like the third or fourth day into the trip, which I think I got sick from somebody else that was in my room with me, that I was actually like bunking next to. So that wasn't great. And here you can see I'm just taping everything down, and then I realized the inside pages are a little too small, so I'm gonna put on some white paper over top, just so that there's not any brown board seen on the book. Again, it's okay for it to be a little messy here because it is a collage type book, and usually I am a little bit more messy with it in general. But I really wanted to make this book just so that I could have a place for all the keepsakes that I've kept from the trip, even though in my mind it was a bit of a disaster overall. So yeah, I think you'll see here in the pages coming up that I make that there was a lot that we did in a very short amount of time, and the days were so full it felt like I couldn't go out and enjoy myself at night. And I feel like the nightlife is a big part of the culture both in Amsterdam and Berlin, so I was a bit disappointed in that. And also I didn't go out a lot at night because I didn't feel like it. I was sick for a majority of this trip, and people thought that I couldn't keep up with stuff, and it's like, yeah, you're right, I couldn't keep up with stuff because I was sick. And as you can see, I weighed down the paper before going in and adding in stuff from the trip. Okay, so to start out, we have these receipts from the money that I paid for the trip. It was pretty expensive, but some of that cost went to the fact that it was like an actual study abroad. I'm not sure how much I learned, if I'm being honest. We did visit some pretty cool design studios while we were over there, but that was about it. And then this is the itinerary from the trip that I'm cutting up.
and I don't know. Yeah, I'm measuring that out. Oh, this washi tape. All the washi tape that you see I actually got in Berlin. I thought it was such a cool find. 2 out of 3 of them, this one that I'm using being one of the 2, are actually like Berlin themed, which I think is pretty cool. And I think I'm figuring out like exactly what to do. I ended up deciding to put the book, or to put the schedule like on the side instead of just right up and down. And you'll see this happen a lot throughout the book, where some things just don't fit right up and down. So I put them on the side. So I wrote more so that you could open up the page to see more of the itinerary. And obviously we're missing a little bit of the back of the itinerary, but that's fine. And I think I'm going to include the headphones, but not yet, because I still want a flat surface to work off of, or a relatively flat surface. These are my airplane tickets for the airplane, obviously. And I think I'm going to add some things underneath them so that you can open the flaps and it will be a nice little surprise. There we have the headphones, and then I added this little flip through. I wanted to put in like helpful phrases and things that I thought, like restaurants and stuff that I wanted to go to, and things that I wanted to see. I didn't see any of the things that I wrote on this list, and I didn't go to any of the restaurants that I wanted to on this list. So, yep, that really tells you how that trip really went. And I didn't really use any of the useful phrases, but it's okay. It's fine. I tried to do my research beforehand, and I guess I just underestimated the amount that I'd actually be able to get to, but it's fine. And here is my little Metro card that I used for the week. It was like a temporary one, just made out of like a thicker cardboard, but people who live there, they get like an actual card that looks very similar to this, actually, just not cardboard. And I felt so cool being able to use it like on the train and tram, and I loved traveling that way. It was a very clean train from what I remember too. Absolutely loved that. But that was one of the things that I was looking forward to the most, was public transportation. And then this is the room card that I accidentally kept from the hotel that we stayed at. I think it was a Menninger hotel. It was right across from a McDonald's, and the only reason I remember that is because one night we ended up going to McDonald's because we wanted a sweet treat, and there's a lot of instances where we just went to certain places because of the convenience of it, because the organizers of the trip did not really account for eating time. And so we were put in positions of, being really hungry, and we didn't want to have to travel to a specific place. We just tried to find what was around, and usually what was around wasn't that good of restaurants. Here I'm gluing in my journal pages, or some of my journal pages from the trip. I try to journal a lot while I'm traveling because I really want to remember things, look back on them. I started out really well with this journaling here for this trip, but it went downhill pretty quickly once I actually got sick on this trip. And also as the days went on and everyone got more tired, I got more tired, and the days seemed to get longer, so I just did not journal as much after the first few days of this trip, unfortunately. But here I'm doing that same like taping method with the pages so that I can flip through them and add on to them. And I think like that other page was just like not from the trip, but it was me like from this year journaling and stuff, so it's interesting that that'll be in there as well. But here I am cutting off the excess tape that I put. Oh, not cutting off, sorry. Folding over that tape. And so far, I'm really loving how everything is looking. And here I'm just writing in pencil, like this is the Amsterdam portion of my trip. And the dates of it as well. I can't believe it's been like almost a year since all of this went down. Absolutely crazy. Okay, now we're going to go onto a new page. And here I think is when we start getting into a lot of the museum stuff. I think at this point in the trip we went to the design studio Total Design in Amsterdam, and Tonic Design, I forget how you pronounce that one. But both of those design studios were really cool. And then I think I have some Straat Museum pages as well to add in. And I loved the Straat Museum as well. That was honestly probably my favorite museum out of all of them. And then this is like stickers that I got from a magazine that I had bought at the Straat Museum. And I wasn't exactly sure where I was going to put these stickers, but I'm glad that I added a few in this book. And then this is the Rijksmuseum. And this is the map of it. I loved the way that this map was designed. It is so incredibly cool, and I'm so glad that I kept it and that I can now like fold it out from this book. Here I am checking the thickness. It is a pretty thick book once everything is added in, but I love the way that it turned out. And that is just such a nice like solid sticker. Okay, so I also kept receipts from this trip as well to like remember certain things that, you know, I went to, certain purchases that I made, and I was trying to like check the dates on all of these and make sure that they went in the right place, because this is technically like chronological that I'm trying to make. So, you know, at the beginning there's like, before the trip even starts, we have, you know, the receipts of like me paying for the trip, and then now we have the receipts of, you know, when I'm actually on this trip. And then, okay, once we go to the Jumbo Supermarket, or I don't know how to pronounce that, Supermarkten, the Jumbo Supermarkten. Okay, that might have been annoying for you all to hear, sorry. But once I go to Jumbo, that's when you know like that I was actually getting sick, because I wanted to gaslight myself into thinking it was allergies. So I bought allergy tabs, and obviously those did not work. But I also bought Kleenexes, and I went through you know, those like little 8-pack of Kleenexes that you can get I went through the entire thing for the rest of the trip. The entire thing. And the trip was like, at this point, it was less than 2 weeks to the end of the trip. It was awful. And I felt so bad for like, whenever we went to the design studios and then the designers were like side-eyeing me and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Yeah, but I ended up saving like that last little tissue in the tissue pack because I wanted to add it to this journal basically, and I saved a lot of the wrappers. This isn't even half of the wrappers that I used for the cough drops that I took, but there was a specific flavor that I really liked that was sold in Europe, because usually cough drops like make me sick to my stomach and I was really worried about that, but these cough drops did not, and that's why I'm featuring them in this journal. So yeah, this is kind of like my little sickness section to highlight just how sick I was during that entire time. And then I felt really bad too because like when I started having coughing fits in public and like I couldn't stop coughing, like certain smells, like strong smells would trigger me or something like that, and then I couldn't stop coughing, and then I felt like I was embarrassing everybody on this trip, and I just felt really bad. I felt embarrassed myself, and it was just like I don't want to be this way, you know? But here I was being that way, so that was not fun. And I'm cutting off the excess tape from the top of the wrappers page. But yeah, this is my little sickness section. Isn't it lovely? Okay, there's a few more pages. I need to take a drink of water to get through the rest of this. Okay, do I sound more hydrated? I hope I do. Alright, so here's a little receipt from the Rijksmuseum. I got my mother a tea towel from this museum, actually. And I think I might have gotten... Oh, I got a magnet for myself from this museum. So that was like the little baggie that I got from it. And I also love the design of the little bag. A lot of the museum design is just amazing. But I figured I would keep the receipt and the baggie with the map, so all of that's together. And I taped the receipt over the map, but only at the top so that you can still like fold up the receipt and see the map. And then that baggie's in there. And then I believe like one of our first days in Amsterdam, we visited the Van Gogh Museum, which is a must-see for like anybody who goes to Amsterdam. I wish we would have done the audio tour, but we did not do the audio tour. We just walked around and looked at stuff. But I got like a little postcard from the Van Gogh Museum for a friend at the time. And all that I have from the Van Gogh Museum is that little baggie, so I put that in there just to remember that we actually went. And then I'm taping the rest of that little packet onto the top of this map. The Rijksmuseum was really cool too, honestly, but since this was a study abroad, students had to do presentations in these museums, and the teachers didn't think about getting like approval to do presentations at these museums beforehand. So when they were doing these presentations, like we would get in trouble with the museum, and it was the most embarrassing thing ever. I'm like remembering this now. But now we're moving on to the Germany section. What I had taped on that other page was a little ticket of our train from Amsterdam to Germany, which was a really long day, but the train was pretty nice. I'd take it over flying. And that little token that I taped down was from the Berlin TV tower, which was pretty cool. We also spent a day in Dessau, Germany, in the Bauhaus Museum, which I don't think that needed a day. I think that needed half a day, but that's just my opinion. Bauhaus is okay. I think a lot of designers hold it up to hold it up on an insane pedestal. I'm not one of those designers that holds it up on an insane pedestal. It's just like the way that they were describing the architecture. They were like, oh yeah, so he put the heaters on the second floor, but it was because he wanted a certain look to this architectural design, even though technically it doesn't make any sense to put heaters on the second floor because heat rises, and so the first floor would be super cold. And it's like, yeah, I think that's just like a dumb decision. I don't think, it adds to the design. I think that's just like a dumb architecture decision. Sorry, like maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. I was also near my wit's end when we went to Dessau and the Bauhaus to this day. Like, I was just so done with the people on the trip. I literally almost cried. I remember being in like one of these like Bauhaus teachers' houses, which I don't even know why we went to the houses, but being in this house and like looking out the window and like tears in my eyes of just like thinking, oh my god, like I'm in Germany and I'm supposed to be enjoying myself, and this is supposed to be like such a wonderful, beautiful experience, and all I want to do is go home right now. So yeah, but at least our tour guide was kind enough to make sure that we got lunch that day, because a lot of days we did not have lunch. We just grabbed snacks, and walking 20,000 plus steps a day and not having time for lunch is like hell. So that happened a lot during our trip, and that's something that I also hate. Okay, so my favorite design studio that we did visit was the design studio in Berlin called KMS. And no, it is not Kill Myself like a lot of people use that abbreviation for. I actually forget what the abbreviation stands for, but it's not that. And then we got really cool stickers from that design studio as well, and it's done a lot of really cool work too for really big name brands. But I added in my notes from that design studio and like all the design studios that we visited. There's also a design studio that we visited in Berlin called, I think it was Neubau, and that was pretty cool too. He had like a storefront for his design studio where he could like put out, really interesting installations, and I was so interested in that.
So now we're doing the final flip through of this book, Collage, and we're in the Amsterdam section of this book, flipping through my journal pages and some receipts, some design studio notes. We have some stickers from the magazine that I got at the Straat Museum. That includes some graffiti, some printouts from the Straat Museum and then the Rijksmuseum, with that fold-out map of the Rijksmuseum receipt from there included as well. And then we flip on to, I saved the Amsterdam tram bus metro map and just clipped it on there. Added a sticker below the receipt on that. And there's the infamous page there, Bauhaus. Flip through some tickets from museums I visited in Berlin, some Berlin notes, stickers from Design Studio, some more Design Studio notes, and then I transcribed a journal entry on that page, some more receipts from Berlin there. And then this was the Dark Matter Museum that we visited on one of our last days there. Transcribed some more journal entries. And then those were my plane tickets home on the very last page. And I think a gum wrapper that I bought as well. So there you have it.